And first things first, I want to point out that LibKey Nomad is a tool that we have access to here on the academic campus. This is for users of the Robert R. Muntz Library. At this time, it's not something that is offered at our health campus. So if the Watson Wise Library is your home library, you may not have access to this tool at the moment. I don't know if that may be something that comes in the future. But for right now, this is only for this campus. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And go over here. So LibKey Nomad is a tool that you can use to help you connect to journal articles. Now, if you have done very much searching at all through the library resources, you knew that if you're off campus, sometimes that connection isn't as smooth as you would experience if you're on campus. If you're on campus and you do some kind of search, things are going to connect pretty much immediately. You can go in here, find an article, click on download PDF, and boom, it takes you right into the article. But we don't always want to go through the library website. Sometimes we really like starting off somewhere else. And for a lot of our researchers, that is probably going to be in PubMed. So in case you're not familiar with it, PubMed is an index of medical literature that is brought to you by the National Library of Medicine. It's going to be like it says, over 35 million citations on literature for medicine, biomedical engineering, nursing, all kinds of health-related information. And when you're searching in PubMed, I'm just going to do simple searches here today. When you're searching in PubMed, you'll find a lot of articles, obviously, and you'll often see a free article. That means that it's published in full text in PubMed or in Medline, and you can directly get access to it. So you would click on the title, and where is this one going to go? Use the full text links, and it takes you right out to where that article lives. Pretty nice, but it doesn't work that way 100% of the time, right? So if you go to one of these not free articles, let me see. And you take a look at it. If you're on campus, you may get a full text link over here, and it will take you out to where we have access to that article here on campus. If you're not on campus, that doesn't work as smoothly. So LibKey Nomad is a tool that we offer that can help connect you to the right things. So I'm going to back out of that for a second, and we are going to just do a search for LibKey Nomad. This is a product brought to us by a vendor called Third Iron. And you can go to, this one has the Apple apps right up at the top, but I am using Chrome as a browser, so I would go there. But you can also go to thirdiron.com. And the reason I point that out is because it will have links to whatever browser you want to use. So if you scroll down, you see you can use it on Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, Vivaldi, Brave, all of those. And whichever browser you're in, you can click on the link there and add to Chrome. I'm using an incognito window, so it's not going to let me do that. Okay, we're going to open my not incognito window. I'm going to stop the share for just a moment. I should have tried that out before I started this webinar. I'm very sorry about that. So bear with me just for a moment. have to move too many moving parts around here. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen. And I have quickly uninstalled this from my Chrome browser that I'm logged into. So going back and go over there to Third Iron's website. And I'm going to download this for Chrome. And you'll see it says add to Chrome. If I clicked on the one for Safari, it would be add to Safari, etc. And that's just going to take a moment. And then you're going to look for your organization. Do not type the in front. We have different things that we use, whether it needs to be the or not. So, you know, this is one of the ones where it needs to not be the. And you see UT Tyler there. It's going to show, yes, we are now connected to UT Tyler. You'll also notice it has this little green teardrop with download PDF. That is the logo that you're going to look for in some of these websites. You'll also notice up here where you have browser extensions that LibKey Nomad is going to be right in there. I'm going to go ahead and pin this one up at the top so that it'll always be showing. And now we are going to go back to PubMed. Now I do my search here, and whereas before we would have just the plain information here, now you're noticing that these article links pop up. That means that you do have access to that article through the University of Texas at Tyler, and you might see article link, or you may see access options there, or download PDF. So I'm going to just click on an article link. Now, if you're off campus, at this point, you should be directed to the login page where you would enter your UT Tyler email and credentials. And that would allow you to link to the right article. Well, that's fun. So over here, it triggered a ProQuest search that returned more than the single document. That's fine. What this likely means is that we have access to this journal in 2 different databases, but we can look at either one. I'm going to click on the title, and there's my article. So in previous searches, if you were off campus and you came up with that result, you'd probably have to copy the title of the journal article, go back over to the library website, look for journals by title, enter it in, and direct yourself to the journal that way. This way, it's just one click, takes you directly into the article, you're all set. Also, as long as you keep the session open, once you've logged in on one article link, it should keep you logged in for any article links. So you would not have to re-log in there. Another nice thing this does is give you the view complete issue. So this is linked to browsing, which is our journal manager, and it'll take you to that entire issue. And of course, with medical journals, a lot of times the journal is going to be dedicated to a particular topic, different aspects of the same topic. Not always, obviously, but sometimes. So by looking at that whole journal, you may find more citations that you need in addition to the one that you had originally found. Are there any questions about the mechanics there that went through providing access that way? Pretty good. Okay. Now, the other really cool thing that I like here is the access options. So this one, I have a feeling, is going to behave a little differently because it's a free article, but let's click on it and see. We click on access options. Now, this is directing us to a page that's going to say, hey, we don't have this, but you can request it through interlibrary loan. So we're going to pretend that that didn't say free article because I know that there's other ways to get to the free articles. This means, hey, we don't have access to it, but we can get it for you. You click on that request. Of course, it'll ask you to log in. As always, if your students, faculty, or staff, click that login button. And it will fill in your form for you. So all you would have to do is check what date you want it. It automatically defaults to, well, usually it's 1 month out. I think it's 30 days out. And then how much you would be willing to pay. If you're not familiar, I always put 0 in the interlibrary loan because I've been using interlibrary loan for 15 years. I've never had to pay to access anything. I've only had to pay if I'm late turning something in, but, and then you submit your request. So that takes a lot of steps out of how you need to go about getting to those articles in PubMed. Now I'm going to go back over to here to our search results. That's in German. I probably wouldn't request that. Let's take a look at some more. Okay, here we go. Cholesterol oxides and carcinogenesis. So this one does not say that it's a free article. And if I click on those access options, it will open up and I can just go through the process of requesting through interlibrary loan. And that's basically it. Like that is how LibKey Nomad works. It takes a lot of the middle work out of using PubMed for you and gets you to the articles that you need really quickly. Now, I was primarily focusing on PubMed because I know it is one of the most popular databases that gets used from the university at all, but it works in other ways too. So let's say that you like to use Google Scholar. And you want to do a search. Now I have my Google Scholar set up to be connected to the university. So it will tell me if there's UT Tyler access here. And because I'm on campus, that would go straight through. However, if you click on one of these article titles and this was not the full text, you notice that this little green teardrop shows up over here in the bottom corner. You can click on that and it goes through that whole process. If it's something you couldn't access, you could request it through interlibrary loan there. With the LibKey Nomad extension, it will work on pretty much any indexing database, any website, any search engine that you're using. It may not be show up on the first click. So with Google Scholar, it does not show up here on this part, but it would show up if I were to click over to a link. And of course, all the links I'm going to click on first are going to have full text. That sounds pretty familiar. And it pops up there. So it also, not that we condone using Wikipedia for your research very often, but if you ever do use Wikipedia, you know that there are good citations in there. And if I scroll down to the bottom of the article where the citations are, once again, it will connect you to anything that we have access to in full text. I'm going to go back over here to our databases by title. And I'm going to look at, CINAHL. With CINAHL, so CINAHL is a huge indexing and full text. Let me close out a couple of these things just in case that's causing a problem. And go back. I like to point out that y'all aren't the only ones who sometimes have issues connecting to some of our sources. If you do, always come talk to us and we'll troubleshoot that. And I'm going to try one other thing. Wait, there we go. There we go. We're going to try clearing my cache and see if that works. Refresh. There we go. So if I'm in something like CINAHL that is an indexing database, it does contain some full text, but not all full text, of course. And I do a search. So here's something that we don't have full text access living in here. I will click on the DOI. And there comes my little teardrop. So it'll take me out to where that full text of that article is. So it's a breeze with LibKey Nomad working with PubMed, but it also is good for so many other resources that we have there. So, and that is really it. It's simple to use, it's simple to install, it's simple to get set up. So if we have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at this time. It is a very handy tool. Thank you so much for joining us today. All right. Well, if you have any questions about that, my contact information is available on the library website. And if you call the library or email the library directly, they can get you to me if you need any help. Our other librarians are also well versed in this, so they are happy to help you with any problems that you may encounter. And tell your friends, because it makes life so much easier. You need to use your cognitive load focusing on the research that you're doing. Let us help you make all of this connection to the library resources that much easier. Thank you. Sarah has included a link here where you can record your attendance. You just have to click on the link and it should record your attendance here. And you'll be entered in our drawing for our workshop rewards series. Thank you so much, and we hope to see y'all in the next one.